Tissue.
Compensation.
Well, good evening and welcome to Hull and Back podcast and Tiger Talk here on Humble Wave Radio and on Hull and Back podcast. I'm Eddie, right? It might work.
I guess I'll go next. I'm Nathaniel Witto.
And I'm Chris Sorensen.
And I'm Paul Wright.
And we're here tonight with a very special edition of Tiger Talk. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to this summer edition. We've all decided to get out of our pits and do a bit of talking on Tiger Talk tonight. Good to have you along.
Yeah. We've got quite a bit to catch up on, haven't we, really? So it's going to be an interesting
night, isn't it? It's definitely one of those nights.
Definitely. Yeah, I was hoping to have the summer off.
It's never dull being a Hull City fan, is it?
Yeah,
not really. But what do you expect from Hull? Let's be fair. I mean, if it was dull and quiet, we'd just be bored and boring. So we may as well just spice it up. The only downfall is we just keep spicing it up the wrong way. And
we certainly do. Yeah, we certainly do. It just all seems to go Pete Tong, doesn't it?
It's got to that stage again, hasn't it? I mean, come on. Can we just have one normal summer? Just that's all I'm asking. Just one normal summer.
Stop silly.
Stability. That was the buzzword, wasn't it, with Sayers? And then since we sacked him, I thought that would be the most controversial thing to happen this summer. And then, every other day it's got sort of worse. I guess we had some positive news about, the whole situation this morning, but I mean, it's still up in the air, isn't it? And I was really hoping we could finish 12th, maybe keep the same manager and just, have some time to recover from a disastrous year. And maybe we're going to have an even more disastrous one.
Well, it could possibly be like that, Nathaniel. We're on Humble Wave Radio. We haven't been on here for a few weeks. We've had a little bit of break since the summer. We have had a couple to Hull and Back podcasts since the summer break. But if you are listening on Humble Wave Radio, good evening to you. Thanks very much for joining us. There's lots of ways you can get in touch with us. If you're watching online, you can message us on whatever platform you're watching us on. Or you can message us if you want to do it through Humble Wave Radio, then just do it on the WhatsApp 01482 772 663. That comes straight through to me, and I'll be able to read your messages out. I'm going to come to you all in a minute, but we got an open letter from the chairman. I think it's probably right that I read some of this letter out, maybe all of it. I don't know. Depends on how my voice holds up.
It's not long, is it?
No, it's not that long. Dear Hull City supporters, it is clear there has been a lot of misinformation circulating in the last few days, so I wanted to clarify a few matters. There are zero issues between us and Aston Villa in relation to both Louis Barry and Jadon Philogene arrangements. We are confident in our appeal case. The Finn Burns situation is actually quite simple. We intended to use proceeds of a player sale to settle this fee, and as soon as the EFL told us this wasn't possible due to reasons not related to us, we made a direct payment immediately to end the matter. With regards to payments to suppliers, unfortunately, the club has experienced a cash flow issue when it didn't receive 1.5 million payment for a player, which was intended to clear invoices from suppliers. I will cover the shortfall until we receive the funds we are owed, and our team are in communication with all suppliers to rectify any outstanding issues as soon as possible. When I spoke to our fans last week, I told them the club is losing money and I am supporting when required. The club will always have my full backing whenever it needs it. I want to reassure fans that we have zero conflict with any clubs. Perhaps there were some financial administrative errors, but I am sure the EFL will be understanding to our appeal and we are confident in our case. People are entitled to their opinions and to write a different story. That is life. But I will always be behind our club. Our squad has £100 million potential. We'll talk about that in a minute. We have very good coach, the best fans, and if we are united together, we can achieve our dreams. Up the Tigers, a John Eligella, Hull City chairman. So that's the statement. Nothing to see here, John. Move along. Thanks, John. Let's go to you first, Paul, because me and Chris have had a talk about this. I know we'll come to you in a minute, Nathaniel, because I know you haven't. What do you think, Paul?
Well, there's obviously something going wrong somewhere, isn't there? I mean, what I can't understand, I mean, you're a lot cleverer than me, so you'll know why. How come we're paying £1 million for a loan player? I don't get it. I just don't. If we was paying his wages, why do they want £1 million? Because I think was he at somewhere like Stockport? You know, I had to say where he was, but it was in League One. We took him to the Championship. If I can't believe they've offered £1 million to keep him for the year, and I don't know where this £1 million come from. It's a lot of money, isn't it? I mean, we should have paid it if we've said we're going to pay it, but I just don't understand where it's come from that we should be paying £1 million for a player that's unproven in the Championship. You know, he might be one of the best players in the Premiership eventually, but at the moment, you know, he's still a young lad. He played about 3 or 4 games for us, and we owe him £1 million. I just don't know why, but we should have obviously sorted the debt out, and it's a big problem, isn't it? We can't stand people. We seem to get rid of them quite easily, but we just don't seem to be able to sign them or put them on loan somewhere. I don't know what's going wrong. It's last year we had no players until when we had to rush it all in, and manager we didn't know. Again, we've got a manager who we don't really know. I don't know. I think a bit like Nathaniel, it could easily be another poor season. I mean, I'm hoping not. Evidently, we can still sign this centre forward, can't we? Is it Freegon or somebody? We can still sign him because we are actually signing him or paying the money for 18 months. I just don't understand the financial aspects of everything. It just seems to be above my head, and I can't understand why the club are in this sort of problem.
The thing that adds to do there, Paul, is that we've obviously had Delap the year before. We've absolutely made him worth an awful lot of money because obviously he's sold and then he's sold again now to Chelsea. It was coming to us that actually started that off. So to me, clubs should maybe be thinking about paying us for developing these players for them. What do you think, Nathaniel?
Well, I'm glad you've asked me because I can't remember who it was, but I had a big rant in midweek about Liam Delap. I think Liam Delap and the exceptional success, not just good success, but how many strikers have we signed in, over 121 years? He's probably quite possibly going to have the best career out of any of them. Yes, Delap, we were able to develop him, but I think some people have tried to justify the huge expense of, is it Freegan, the Croatian striker, saying he might be like the next Delap, but he might be like the next Burstow or Carl Joseph. And obviously, I think it's fine to look at this sort of thing. And I think if we were in a better financial position, then it would be okay. But it's kind of a crazy timeline to go from embargo. Well, technically it's 2 embargoes and the fee restriction to being linked to a player for €9 million allegedly that would be we'd be paying in 18 months' time. It's that sort of wild overspending and risk taking that has got us in this situation because a lot of the loan to buy deals we've made haven't been very good, like Giles in particular. We loaned him. He wasn't very good on loan, and then we had to buy him. So, and Christian, I know you'll agree with me on that one. Yeah.
Indeed.
Just spending less money, not more.
And Christian, I bet you didn't realise that we had a squad with a potential of £100 million, did you?
No, I mean the fantasy football squad is looking really nice, isn't it? I mean, is that that was the thing that I guess triggered a lot of fans reading that comment was the 100 million price tag, and there was obviously a lot of people arguing over like, well, at one stage we may have because of the sale cost of XYZ and what we got for them XYZ. And there were some ridiculous numbers being said regarding like the sale of like Philogene and Greaves, saying what we were going to be or due to get for the pair of them. And I don't know where they were getting their numbers from, but it wasn't the numbers that they were sold for. I don't understand a 100 million squad at all. I mean, overall, if you want to include, I don't know, Cottingham training facilities at the academy, including the under 12s, under 14s, and under 9s, and you start adding all the pennies together, you might just scrape 100 million, but I don't see anything else where it's coming from. And this is going back to what just Nathaniel just stated. Gambling. It's gambling. Throughout Adrian's tenure, it's all been a gamble. So it is from his we're going to loan you with an obligation to buy situation. I mean, stop doing that. Stop doing that. I mean, I understand sometimes that you might gonna commit to buying that player anyway, and your way around it was going to do the loan to buy. I can appreciate that kind of situation. However, when I know I don't want to keep going on at Giles because I'm going to start sounding like Nathaniel when he starts talking about Longman, but
you're already there, I think. Bud.
I think I'm already there, buddy. Yeah, the one thing that I got out of the Giles situation was it was based on like 2 seasons previous, and it was half a season. Well, I'd say maybe a full season of just. He was okay. He was good. He did his job. He got noticed. But then when he went to Luton, there was nothing from it. And it kind of proved that he couldn't do that step up, and he was only good at kind of that one stage. So it needs to be looked into where his business dealings are always gambles. And to say where's all these debts come from and how's the money coming up? We were at zero balance, zero debt when he took over the club. Yeah. And then in 4 seasons, we're now 66 to 69 million in debt. And Ant, who's obviously been on here ourselves, you know, the Holland Back podcast, he did a really nice TikTok earlier on about breaking down where a lot of the monies have gone. And it was like agent fees. We went from spending 230,000 on agents fees to roughly about 3.6 million, which is like the highest in the league. Which the only other teams that are paying that.
Christian, yeah, behind the top 3.
Yeah, but the top 3 are the teams that have been relegated, Paul.
Yeah.
We're like top of the league, really, aren't we?
Yeah, we're really technically top of the league. And when you start adding these things up of like the managers, we've gone through 5 to 6 managers. And the cost of those 5 or 6 managers of actually terminating those contracts, obviously you're paying them off. And they're probably adding up to about $1 million too in some cases.
We'll still be paying them off, won't we? Because
we're still paying them all. Yeah. Nathaniel, I probably won't be surprised if we're still paying off Shotta. Yeah. So we're still. Possibly. This is where the money's kind of going out. So to say, oh yeah, we're having a cash flow problem. The cash flow problem is you keep you keep getting managers in and out that you're paying fees for. You're buying players on the short kind of deals, really, because they're not the players that you want. When you find out they're not that you want, you're going to try and get rid of them, and they've lost the value. So we've already lost it there. So it's been a gamble throughout start. And I think sorry guys, I know I'm going on a bit of a rant here, but the one thing that I'm really disappointed in is when he started turning around in his Q&A as well, saying, I have my own scouts that kind of do this for me. Separate to the brain team, I employ 3 scouts. Are these 3 scouts? Are they just at Fenerbahce? Because where else are they getting these kind of prices from for the players and the people that we're signing? And going on to what Paul stated as well about £1 million for Louis Barry. Now, I understand paying loan fees. I do. I truly do. And I understand paying for potential as well. But £1 million on a player that's not even championship proven. Don't get me wrong. He was smashing League One. He was absolutely destroying it, which made it seem like he could do really good in the championship. But £1 million for 6 months. That's a lot of dollar for someone who's never played in the Championship. It's bad. AD, I believe if you're talking, you've muted yourself, buddy.
He's still muted.
He's still muted himself. He doesn't know what he's done, ladies and gents.
Muted.
There we are.
What I was saying was that £1 million for 4 games, it's a lot of money, and it's 250 grand a game.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we would have played him more if he hadn't got injured, but that's the risk you take, and there's been a lot of risk.
You're taking that risk, aren't you? And Christian's just been talking about gambling, and it was a gamble. Can I ask you, Paul, has this letter, the open letter from the chairman, reassured you that everything is okay and rosy at Hull City?
Well, you'd love to think so, but I don't think it has, no, to be quite honest. I mean, I think he came in, when he first came in, he said he had a 5-year plan for the Premiership, didn't he? That was his sort of plan. Brought Shotter in, brought a few players in, nobody had heard of, realistically. And we didn't quite do it. And then Liam come in, steadied the boat, and had a reasonable season. But I said at the time, when we had all these loan players who were playing, we were going to struggle if we don't get in the Premiership. And that's what's happened, really. It was a gamble. It was doing well. Maybe get a couple in, but it went over the top and made sure these players were playing every week. And then we lost them because they were in our contract, only till the end of the season. They went back to the clubs. 1 or 2 was like, Delap did really well. Philogene did well. They got money for Philogene, but they sold him, I think, a little bit quickly on the cheap as well. And we had obviously got nothing for Delap, but when he came here, Preston didn't want him and Stoke didn't want him. The supporters didn't think much of him. As we've said, we brought him on it. And as Nathaniel said, he could turn out to be one of the best, bars we've had, in a sense, for the loan sort of thing. But I think we put too many eggs in the basket of getting into the top 6 in that season. I know we was in the top 6, but it's always a gamble. When we was just sort of in the 6, weren't we? We was 6th, 7th, 6th, 7th. There was other teams coming through. And I think that's where it's all gone wrong, to be quite honest. And it's obviously sacking all these managers. It's absolutely ridiculous. Sayers, maybe it wasn't brilliant. He came in with a team at bottom of the league. We just scraped in. Probably half the players were there we didn't want. Who's to say we might not have done better under him this season? Now we've got somebody else. I hope the manager does really well, but it's just another guess. It's just another gamble. Realistically, he doesn't know the Championship. We're not being able to buy many players now. Obviously, or get any players in or many players in. We seem to be looking at a lot, and as soon as we look at them, we don't get them. McBurney, it's gone quiet on that front with McBurney, hasn't it? This other kid, Free, gone wherever he is. He looks so he could be coming, but it's nothing. I mean, we start in about 3 weeks, don't we? First game of the season. We've got a hard start. It's just, I just don't know. It's worrying, I think. I'd like to hope that get some points. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it is worrying. I think that, it's definite worrying. You're right. It's not that far away.
Exactly a month.
Yes, it's exactly a month. So not that far away to the start of the season. They go away to Turkey, I think, on Monday, don't they?
I think so.
They do go to Turkey, yeah.
You're going to Turkey for a training camp on Monday.
If you want to save money, that's the first thing. Every time we go to Turkey, we come back and they look exhausted.
And the other thing with that is, who's going, Nathaniel? Because we've let Malum go now. Obviously, there's talk of other players going. We've already let Matty Jacob go out on loan. And I know that Matty Jacob wasn't in the first team, really. I know that Malum wasn't really in the first team. He was obviously on loan for the end of last season sort of thing. But when you're under a transfer embargo and you can't sign anybody for a fee, then should you not be keeping your players?
Yeah, it's a bit difficult because on one hand, you don't really want to sign 10 free agents and panic sign them or on loan when actually it turns out that the embargo would get overturned. Not that I think it will.
No, I think they may get a year. They may get 6 months off it or something like that, but I don't think it'll get overturned.
And then equally, you don't want to then expect that the thing was going to get overturned and maybe try and get waste time on this what would be a complicated deal to get sorted with Freegan, for example, and then realize in a month's time, because it's going to be a few weeks whilst they do this hearing, that you can't sign them and you wasted the time. So it is a difficult situation. I've seen a lot of people say, well, now that we can't spend money on the transfers or on the fees, why don't we offer more money to McBurney? I don't think that sort of thing works like that. And paying just a little bit every week for McBurney over the course of a 2 or 3 year contract is not going to look good at all for the the books. So it is a very difficult situation. I wanted to pick apart pretty much every line that Ajahn said in his letter. I think it just proves the deal they had with Villa, and then again that they were told by the EFL what they could and couldn't do about the Finn Burns money. It just points to me like they don't know what the rules are, and so this sort of thing can happen because they're not really up on what they should and shouldn't be doing.
You could be right. I mean, we've said it on
everything, shouldn't they? Should have a team what knows what's going on, really.
Yeah. We've said on numerous occasions here on Target Talk, I'm sure they've said it onto Hull and back as well, that, you could have done with a strong, chief exec, something like that, who could oversee all these things. And, he's not had a strong chief exec, and that's probably half of the reason why we're in this situation. I've seen a bit about Tan Kessler coming out in the last week as well. And, obviously when Tan's gone, it seems to have all gone pear-shaped, doesn't it? So was Tan running the club well? Was there a problem? I mean, I've never seen anything come up about whether there was any problems that Tan had done something wrong or something. Nothing's ever come of that. So was it just a falling out, Christian?
I think so. But again, we can only speculate on that. Nothing's really come out. It was just one of those where it was a bit of a crazy one. At how fast he left and no replacement was lined up. It was just...
Was the club running better when Tam was there, Christian?
At that particular point, yeah, because Ajahn was spending too much playing with Fenerbahce. So, yeah, of course it was getting run better because we had someone actually at the reins. And we there was always somebody to turn to get the answer to your questions when Tan was about. I mean, obviously when Tan went, the questions went to Ajahn, but Ajahn was, Toy Story-esque. I don't want to play with you anymore. I've got my Fenerbahce toys. So that was kind of the situation on that one. And this is where it kind of leads into the Q&A again. That was on that Monday, because obviously he said he did admit, I will, with respect to Ajahn, he did admit that he kind of dropped the ball a bit last season, which was nice to hear. He did take a bit of ownership on that. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he was probably saying it because Sky TV was there and he wanted to do the old story arc of coming back. But it doesn't look really good for him right now, let's be honest. And it's a really tricky predicament to be in as a fan, because as we can all see and say, a lot of the fans are one's on one side, one's on the other, and some are neutral. And it's all stemmed over one person and what one person has pretty much done to the club in the past 4 seasons. Now, I'm not going to go through and ask you gents right the split second. I'm going to let Adi take that reign. When it comes to what your thoughts are with respect to Ajahn, as in, should he still be our chairman? Should we be looking elsewhere? Should we, our general opinions on that? But it's really tricky to kind of put around and put some on there and say, does Ajahn not care about Hull? Yeah, of course he does. When I say he does, I mean, it's his money in the club at the end of the day as well. It is his money. So he's got to care a little bit, because 60 million's worth of cash isn't something that you're not going to care about when you are owed 60 million as a businessman. So he's going to have to care in some way, because how is he going to get his investment back? But from the other point of it, of looking from what he's been doing so far, has he run the club right? Some aspects.
No, I think the answer is simply no, he hasn't.
Yeah.
I think the thing with it is that it really doesn't matter what the fans want and whether the fans want him out or whether the fans want him to stay or not, because ultimately you've just hit the nail on the head. These 60 million, something around there, people will argue that it might be 30 million now because of this, and it might be 20 million because of that, and it might be 40 million because of that. But ultimately, we all know that he's somewhere around about the 60 million mark that he's in there. I think, and I don't know what you think, Paul, but I think that it's going to be a struggle to get his money back at the moment.
Oh, definitely. I can't see anybody jumping in particularly quickly. I think he's stuck with us, to be honest, as much as he is, because there's not nobody going to come and 60 odd million for us. We finished fourth from bottom, struggling with this, struggling with that. It's just mismanagement, I think. And I think the trouble with that, John, is he seems to want to be involved in things that he shouldn't be, like the playing side of it. To have scouts looking at people in Fenerbahce or Turkey or like that, to me, is a waste of time. You employ a manager, and they have people looking at other players, and the manager has his say. I would have thought on who we want or who we'd like to get. You don't want the chairman coming in. Well, there's 3 or 4 here. I fancy him playing for us. I think they're good players. And I think that's what he's done. I think, especially first season, we've got a lot of people from sort of Turkey and around that area. And, was any of them that good? Omar looked all right. It's probably him alone, possibly. The others, we already had, what's his, I forget his name now. But we already had one who'd gone for Watford, and come here. Tufan.
We've said
He was already in the English league once. So it wasn't like he was taking a gamble with him. I don't think he was loved.
It was pretty bad, before when he was at Watford,
Yeah, but he came here. It wasn't a major gamble. He had played in the Championship. I don't even know if he was in the Premiership as well with them. Was he? I think he might have just been. But anyway, he came here, and it wasn't a major gamble. He'd been here a while. The others came across, and there wasn't many good ones. Omar started okay, but he went off the boil, and the other ones was very hit and miss. And I think the chairman shouldn't be getting involved to that extent. I know it's his money. But I think if you play a manager, you've got to let him do what he wants to a certain degree and get who he wants in. And I think that's where, he's... I think if he's let City down in any way, that's the way he's let him down, by getting too involved in the playing side of it. I know he's got Pando and he looks a decent keeper, but, he's had so many failures. One good keeper don't make up for all the failures he's had in my eyes.
I think one of the things with the Turkish is that they come across here. It's a totally different lifestyle. It's the temperature's totally different for one, and that does make a huge difference to people. And it seems that when the Turkish people come across, they miss home quite a lot, and because of that, they maybe don't put the effort in, or if they do put the effort in, then they're only going to want to stay for one season because they're missing the home comforts that they've got. And it's a different country; it's a different feel, isn't it?
The struggle on adjustment. They are struggling on adjustment, but that's all foreign players. I'm not just saying Turkey, but all foreign players.
We've had a majority of these players from Turkey, haven't we?
Well, we have. That's it. We've had 3.
3.
We've only had 3, and Tufan was really good. We've had a lot of players that have played in Turkey, like Pelkas, Seri, and Oscar Estepinian are actually there as well. And you've seen Malik Wilkes.
And coming from that climate to come to here, they've come from that sort of climate to come to Hull. I mean, at the moment in Hull, if you look out the window, which I am doing out now, it's glorious sunshine. It's about 26 degrees out there, so they'd probably be quite happy today.
I mean, there's been a lot of players we've signed from other English clubs that haven't been good. I mean, Christian, you know that better than anyone with Giles. And then talk about the fitness.
But you've got to think about all these things, and when you look at it, when some people have come in who have been, let's say, the foreign players, for a want of a better word, and they come in and they've been in Turkey, then they come here. They just, for some reason, don't seem to adjust very well, do they?
Well, some of them have done well. I think generally, I think at this point, given it's 60 players, I don't know how many have been abroad. Maybe it's about 50-50. I'm not too sure. But the recruitment has been very inconsistent.
But he wanted to go back.
Yeah, and we made a loss on that deal.
We did.
We signed it for 3 million.
I'm trying to say is, ultimately, he did well for us while he was here, but he didn't want to stay. And it does seem like a lot of them want to stay. They want to go somewhere else, maybe to a warmer climate, which you can't blame them if they're used to that. I mean, I'm quite happy with 16, 18 degrees, a little bit of cloud out there. I'm a typical Brit myself, but, these players like the sunshine. And
to be fair, though, Eddie, I know you were talking about the weather with them and now they're coming over and acclimatizing, but you've also got to look at it as when they've came over to Hull, especially in the last 4 years, it's not an easy job, is it, to come to Hull City? Adrian has not made it easy. He can be as accommodating as he wants with saying, oh, look, here's a lovely house. Look at this area that you can stay in. And this is how you're going to get from A to B. And this is the training ground. All lovely-dovey. But then the player turns up to the training ground. He's there 24 hours. And then all of a sudden, something's out in the papers saying that Adrian's done this, or we've lost this player, or that, or someone from the backroom staff's being accused of this, or there's so much that goes on at Hull, and generally it's usually negative that actually happens straight after a little bit of positivity. Players' mentalities, if you're coming from somewhere that you're already happy with, though admittedly you might not have been playing as regularly as you wanted, but you were somewhere comfortable and you're getting a bit of cash, to come over to Hull and actually hear all this and pick it up, your first bit of mentality is, what have I done? and if you're coming over saying, oh my God, what have I done? You're going to get a shell of a player. You're going to get a player that just wants to disappear and go elsewhere. And this is the problem with being a Hull City fan as well. But we're just fed up of seeing all the crazy stuff that always generally happens from somebody at the top. I mean, right now, I know things look absolutely horrific with the transfer embargoes. I'm gutted. Like everybody else, I am absolutely wounded because I thought we were going to go into this season positive. Forget about the other seasons. Forget about the past managers.
We'd signed Barry, hadn't we? I mean, everything just fell apart.
We had like Barry all lined up. We just had a lovely Q&A that everything was all, happy days around. Yeah. People had the spirits up. We've just got a new manager that seemed really competent and actually gave it a brilliant interview. And I mean, like, the manager, for me, actually raised my spirits for the season ahead. And he still is, really. But my concern is he doesn't have... Would I expect him to stay? Yeah, I mean, at the moment, he's going to stay. Of course he is. But he's not just going to say, I'm fed up here, I'm off, see you later. He's going to stay. But I don't think Adrian, in his right mind, right now, if things start going bad, Adrian cannot afford to get rid of him.
No, he can't afford to.
He can't afford to. So this is where we have to back the manager. And I'm also at the stage, though, of I can't start blaming the managers of maybe results that we are going to face.
Well, after last year, I think, yes, Adrian's given him a top 10 target, but, Sayers had to come in halfway through. Well, like Rossini did, he had to bail out Shotta and keep us up. I think even if we were to finish 21st, given the off-field antics, he'd probably be a little bit more sympathetic, perhaps.
But that's the thing. Adrian doesn't look at the off-field antics. He just thinks it's all been
blown out of proportion. He doesn't want to blame himself.
He don't want to blame himself. And obviously, I understand why he isn't going to blame himself. I think the biggest problem for me now is with all this transfer stuff is that there is positions in the squad that we need to still strengthen. We can no longer strengthen with cash. We have to be extremely diligent of who we're going to get in and not just waste wages because, again, cash. We don't.
That's the opposite of what we do, though.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Buy 5 wingers on deadline day and hope one of them's good.
And it's not needed. I mean, look, the Louis Barry deal for me was a big one because Louis Barry, is a winger. It was depth, as in we have good wingers in our squad. That is the one. I mean, they're injured, and they're not going to be back until Christmas.
But they'll be back at some point, won't they?
But they'll be back at some point, and we had a bit of depth with Louis Barry. Hey, I don't care if we rotate and sub in if we have wingers like that, and we've got, say, Louis Barry on the bench, or Balumi on the bench, or Miller on the bench.
You could sell him for a profit eventually, couldn't you? A young player.
Exactly. So something like that would have been really good business for us. And right now, we've lost that. So there's negative side of it kicked in from a fan, from the fans from the outside. What the heck? It looked positive. Now it's not. And then we're looking at players that are going out as well. I mean, we're all kind of like, can we afford to let players go because we can't get players in? Well, unfortunately, we have to let them go out because we need to lower our deficit of costs going out. We need to lower the wages for potentially to fill in the positions that we need, i.e. left back. Is Giles going to step up this season? I highly doubt it. But the one thing that Sergei did say was in his little training sessions, I don't know if you guys saw that, he likes to play attacking. He does have a way he likes to play. However, he needs to learn off the players. He said you guys, so sorry, I'm paraphrasing on that one. But he has to learn the players, and he will adapt to the players.
So, back then, please. You've got to. Because Giles could be our best player if you play him in
if you play him in the wing back position. Yeah. Exactly. Three at the back, a nice full wing back position. It could work. Don't get rid of Cody. Do not get rid of Cody because no offense to Coyle, I don't know what your mentality state is. You left a broken man. You had a bit of trouble during the summer. Not his fault that the trouble came about. He was just part of the media part of it. I don't know what your mentality is going to be like coming back. Is it a risk getting rid of Cody? For me, it's a huge risk because you wouldn't
get rid of Cody at the moment, would you? Because you need that extra support, and we're lacking things. Anyway, just listening to Tiger Talk on to Hold the Back podcast and on Humwave Radio. Good for you to be viewing tonight. It's a quick. We've not really advertised it much. We've just sort of jumped on and done a bit. So good that you're all viewing and listening.
It was a message at 11 p.m. last night, everybody, just so you know.
It was a late one, Christian. What, you still answered me, though, didn't you?
I'm still
didn't answer until 7 o'clock this morning. So.
I had to set this up 10 minutes before we were going.
I don't set my phone anywhere. I had my phone.
So it's great. I mean, listen, I'm just going to put out there, Christian, you've talked an awful lot there about the squad, about what state we're in. No, I'm not going to go. No, I'm just saying that you've talked an awful lot about a lot of things there. And, all of it's very valid. Is it time to do something that a John hasn't done since he came into Hull City and to start to use the academy?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's wishful thinking. But yeah,
I think. Oh, is he going to have to use the academy?
Well, he could well have to. Yeah, I mean, we obviously we don't know what players we're going to get rid of, if any. We shouldn't get rid of too many, I wouldn't have thought. But as you say, to get the wage bill down, it's possibly sensible to get rid of one or two. But who we're getting in, as well, it's the academy. What's the point in having them if you're never going to play any of them? If they aren't good enough, they aren't good enough. That's fair enough. Put them out on loan, what have you. But if they're all not good enough, we shouldn't really have an academy, should we? If they're all rubbish, and you've got to bring a few through, or one or two through each season. And I think maybe it is a case of getting one or two, of the academy players in the squad. Maybe not playing them, but putting them on the bench and maybe bringing them on at certain times. I don't see there's out wrong with that, and it does help you if you're in debt to use your academy, doesn't it? Because you're already paying their wages, you're not having to fill the slot maybe, and I can't believe they're all that bad that they can't come up into the first team.
I'm looking at transfermarket.co.uk here, and they have the squad valued at 55.93 million.
Is that euros or pounds?
That's about right.
That is euros. Sorry, that is euros. But it's still 50. It's still 50 million, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, so what I wanted to do, I wanted to just go through the list of players just to make sure they're all right and they're all ours. I know that Pandor's ours. Dylan Phillips has just signed. Harvey Cartwright's ours. Alfie Jones, Charlie Hughes, Sean McLaughlin, John Egan, Semi IJ. Is that was it?
Ajayi, I think.
Ajayi. Thank you. Ryan Giles, James Fairlong, we forget about him, don't we? Cody Drama, Louis Coyle, Gustavo Puerta. There's a little bit of we don't know about that one.
50-50.
It's not been registered apparently, right? But I think that might get sorted.
Regan Slater, Mataz obviously injured. Laluni, is that what we say it?
Reader, let's call him Reader.
Yeah, Reader. Yeah.
But he's a 50-50 into now. There's some doubt about him as well.
Yeah.
Umar, Palmer, Crooks, Vaughan, Miller, Balumi, Kamara, Bairstow, and Joseph.
Yeah, Emma, I think's not been announced to leave, but he's going on loan. I think he's linking up with Cynic.
Who is?
Yeah.
They're both in Hull Royal.
Yeah.
So that's what we've got at the moment. So we have got some numbers there, and there are some reasonable players in there, aren't they?
Yeah, no, there's some quality there. I mean, but you're still going through and you're thinking, when the quality is generally the wings, your centre back, and injuries, and the injuries aren't going to help us for the beginning of the season. And I think we worked that out quite fast last season, where by Christmas we were already in the dogfight and in trouble. We can't afford to have a slow start again. Unfortunately, we need a bit of a buffer zone with the players that we currently have, and need a bit of depth. And I think we're right in saying there's quality in the academy, and I do believe some of the players might need to come up. I truly do. Even if it's just once or twice they get a cameo, bring them up, because then we're adding value to them.
24 players if we exclude Puerta. If we exclude, obviously we've said Umar's probably on his way back, and also Redder. If we exclude them three, then it's 24 players. 3 of those are keepers, which is pretty usual for Hull City.
We've got to bump that up. We've got to get a few more then.
So, yeah.
It's the goals, isn't it? We haven't got we haven't got the last, 2 we've got left really were supposed to be best. So they haven't scored a goal, have they? Well, they scored 2, didn't they? 2 goals. We haven't got a striker. And this is the problem. Is we said about Bellumi and Miller, they're not back. We don't know when they're back realistically, do they?
It's
so I mean, we could end up
season, isn't it? But it's not.
It's going to be. But could it be after 10 or 12 games? I don't know. I have no idea when they're due back. The games come thick and fast, don't they? So it could easily be 10 or 12 games. As you said, Christian, if you're down in the dogfight after 10 or 12 games, you're asking them to come on and hit the ball running and get you back out of it a little bit. And it doesn't usually happen that way. We need to pick up points early on so that when they do come back, it's not as big a problem. And I feel that we could end up in the bottom 3 quite quick. The first 4 games look hard on paper, especially with the squad we've got. We've not got prolific in front of goal. It's a big worry, I think. I mean, I'm hoping this manager sorts things out and gets them playing well and, changes them from last season. But it's a massive worry at the moment, I think. Until we've started playing a few matches, you can't really say where we'll be. But I feel sorry, for the manager. He does seem a decent guy, but he's coming in. There's not a lot going right for him at the moment on the sort of players side of it, is there? So you've got to, feel a little bit sorry for him, I think.
I've got a message from Andrew Scott. I don't think we can sell Cody. If I'm a new manager and I hear lots of teams in the Championship want our player, I'm going to at least stop and think maybe he's good enough for us. From last season, he don't think he is, but surely if other championships are looking at him, then he's probably got potential there. Let's have some of the comments up on the media that people are watching on, Nathaniel.
Yeah, Chris is saying I wouldn't fully rule Joseph out. He's still young. Look at Delap's goal record. Again, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Sorry, Chris, but Delap is now playing for Chelsea. We didn't get any money out of that deal. Not every player is going to be like Liam Delap. We all hope
600k is what they're quoting Joseph as. I think we paid about
value
2.5 million, did we?
Yeah, I mean, it's going back to that 100 million value comment from Adjan, and not that he's gone through Transfermarkt. Adjan's not done that and calculated it specifically. I think what he's hoping is that we spent 5 million on Philogene.
Well, look, let me tell you this, Nathaniel, before you go any further.
Yeah.
On this, they've got Abu Kamara, 4 million.
Yeah, I mean, I think his value won't have gone up or down. He got some goals, but the what he's hoping for is that if a young player, especially, has a good year,
I just up that one up a little bit and make it 4 million. I need to make this 100 million look good.
It might be 100 million that it's spent, but it doesn't mean that valued at that price. I mean, Jesus.
You hope that some of those players, if they have a good year, especially the young ones, they can double in price.
Bairstow's still worth 1.6 million.
Yeah, I mean, well, I wouldn't
He's
say
got 2
Joseph's
goals,
worth
hasn't he?
anything. I think the squad's not awful,
No,
except there's no goals in it
straight away.
at all.
When we start, is Miller back straight away?
No.
I think he'll probably be back is after the first
He did say
international
like
break.
a month. Yeah, like that was his words. Yeah, international break after the first
Is
international.
that what it is? The first international break. So when you're looking at the wingers, then you've got people like he's not been used enough for me, but Harry Vaughan's there. He could play.
Yeah, he'll definitely play, won't he? He'll definitely get
and obviously, and then we're looking at Abu Kamara, aren't we? So that's basically your wingers to start off the season with where we are, unless we do the 3-5-2, which has been talked about quite a lot. Will the new manager look at it? I don't know.
Well, I think Joseph needs someone up there with him.
Yeah.
And Bairstow,
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Bairstow does. So just stick him up front. I mean, dear God, I hope.
Nathaniel, you've just said play
starting those.
Bairstow up front. What person in this? I mean, it makes common sense. A striker should be playing up front. But
what a genius move!
I know.
Because I like Bairstow. I think he's got a bit about him. He can dribble. He can shoot from distance. He scored that great goal against Swansea. There's a player in there, and Joseph's touch is so bad.
Like a donkey.
Well, yeah, but if both of their first touch is awful, then it will just bounce to the other player, won't it? It'll be fine.
Or maybe bouncing the goal if we're really, really lucky.
It's obvious Joseph needs someone next to him. So if it's going to bounce off him, it'll bounce to Bairstow. If Bairstow was playing as a striker.
I think to assume that Carl Joseph scoring a goal is wishful thinking. No, poor Carl Joseph.
I think, to be fair to both of them, we played them out of position most of the time, didn't we?
We did.
When he played him in position, that's when he scored a goal.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
It's not difficult, is it, really?
I don't know why we have to put these people on the wing when they aren't wingers. It seems to me you have to put 4-3-3 and you have to have 2 wingers and neither, not necessarily either of them's wingers and it just seems silly to me. We had Omar on the wing a lot, didn't we?
Yeah, we've got so many centre backs as well, haven't we? Yeah.
You are.
Well, that's it. We've got.
I reckon that is it. What's his name? CIAJ. He'll probably be on the wing just to get him in the team. That's what we seem to do, though, don't we? We've got to get him in, so we'll stick him on the wing. To me, it's stupid. Play him in the position that they want to be played in. Joseph scored a few goals. Everybody said he played up with another striker, but we don't play him with that. We put him on the wing. He isn't a winger. He did his best, tried hard, but he's just not. It's not his position. I ain't saying he will score a bag full of goals neither, but you've got to give him a chance up front where his position is, rather than sticking him on the wing and hoping that he'll do something.
I hope Simon's right. I hope he does make us eat our words next season. He's a really nice lad. I interviewed him at the Hull City Official Supporters Club last year, and really nice lad. He's really determined to make it work. It's just not been working for him. He's moved. He's a young lad. It's difficult, isn't it? And we do. The thing with it is, I think the problem is that in the position that we was in last season, which was near the bottom for the lot of the season, we needed somebody to come in and hit the ground running. Yeah. And that didn't happen for Joseph. And that's not Joseph's fault because we signed him.
The lad.
We'd all love for him to succeed. But I think that, we needed somebody to come in and hit the ground running. And Joseph, being a young lad, he's still only 23. It's hard to ask that of a player that's just come up from League One. He's coming as like a big money signing. There's a lot of pressure on him. And some players can take it and some players need a little bit of nurturing and things like that. And I think, obviously, the way that it was last season, it definitely didn't help him. We've got 7 minutes left on Tiger Talk here, just over 7 minutes. And, basically, we've run through a lot tonight. You asked a question earlier, Christian. Have we had any answers on our comments yet as to whether, they want a Jun to stay or they'd like a Jun to leave? Let's ask that now in the last 7 minutes. If you haven't had a comment yet, have that comment on there. I'll ask you, Paul, what do you think?
Well, I think he's going to stay. I don't mind him staying. I just think if he keeps out the play, get the players part of it, and concentrates on other things. You know what I mean? I think he's got to have the manager, and he's got this backroom staff or something who are looking at players and this, that, and so that. Leave it to them. You know, instead of trying to get these players from wherever he gets them from, because not many of them will worked, I don't think, you know. And so I think he should leave it to them.
What do you think then, Nathaniel?
Well, I've always said over the last year or so that compared to Alam, I quite like the Ajin ownership because it's much more ambitious. But so I don't mind him spending a lot of money so long as it doesn't impact the stability of the club. We've had an awful year, and things look to be getting worse after an awful year. So something needs to change. Whether that's him taking a step back from some of the decision making, that'd be a good idea. But that open letter angered me more than it did reassured me, because it's very difficult to disprove. I'm already sort of aging out at this moment, so anything he does, that's going to make me think. I'm just going to see the negative side of that, but I'm not chuffed at the moment. Obviously, things can potentially get better. I just don't see any evidence that is going to happen.
Christian?
I guess I don't want to say this is the wimp's way out, but I'm still on the fence. And I think a lot of people are still on the fence because obviously with respect to, as Nathaniel just said, when he's coming over the alums, obviously I'm instantly going to like the guy anyway, because alums absolutely destroyed everything mentality-wise for the fans. But it's the fact of where he definitely does want us to succeed. The very recent, don't get me wrong, last season was a mess, and I was giving him this season to kind of make up for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it started absolutely horrific. And every time he's kind of said something and he's got the fans back on his side, it's not even been 24 hours until it's gone back on it. Every time he opens up his mouth, 24 hours later, it's something else. After, the debt's being paid. Oh, wait a minute, embargo, 24 hours later. Oh, don't worry, guys, the Barry deal's almost done. 24 hours later, you ain't getting Barry, you sunbeam. You just struggle to believe him at the moment. I wish he does well. I wish he sorts it all out. He's still our owner. He's probably going to stay our owner. But he needs to sort himself out. And for every Hull fan, I'm praying that he does, because we can't go through this again and again and again.
Andrew Scott says he wants a Jun to stay, but the fantasy has to stop. He wants to be involved, but needs to make sensible decisions. He thinks that the ban will be lifted and will prove that proves how much of a fantasist he is, I think, is what Andrew's trying to say. And my thoughts on it are, at the moment, I mean, obviously, under the Alams, we lost the fans. The best thing that a Jun has done has got the fans back to the stadium. I'd like a mix of the Alams and a Jun. I'd like the Alams financial nous with a Jun's ability to bring the fans back. And that's what I'd like as a mix. And going forward, I think the only way that a Jun's going to succeed and stay involved in Hull City is if he starts to use a little bit of that Alam financial sense. Because ultimately, I know we didn't have like a top 6 squad in the Championship when a Jun took over. But we've probably... All right, we reached number 7 in the league with Liam, but we didn't have a squad that was capable of number 7 because a lot of the players were ours. So when you look at it that way, I don't think a Jun's ever had a squad either that is a top 6 club either. So we've spent an awful lot of money. Are we any better off for spending the money that he spent from when he took over the club? No. The only thing that we're better off with at the moment is the fan base is obviously grown. The stadium is quite full. And that's the only benefit that we've seen from a Jun at the moment. We've seen nothing else. and he desperately needs somebody to help him. And I've said this numerous and numerous times, even before all this financial stuff came out. He needs somebody who can run the club and let him take a back seat and come and enjoy watching football at the MKM Stadium when he's, settled it down and we've got a little bit more financial stability. Anyway,
looking to enjoy football at the MKM Stadium.
We're hoping to enjoy football at the MKM Stadium.
Let's hope so, yeah. I hope this money just, takes us past last year, but you never know.
The food is better as well, Sam, and you're right. That's another thing that is better. The food is better. Any other comments before we go? We've got a minute left, Nathaniel.
Not really. It's just all very exhausting, isn't it? Really.
It is all very exhausting, and this heat isn't helping us tonight. So we definitely need to finish on the hour when we need to go. I appreciate you lads coming out at short notice. Me giving you a message late last night to come on. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. We will be back at the start of the season with Target Talk, where we hope we'll bring you some more positive news. If we get any developments before that, we might do another special. It'll depend on what happens on the club between now and the start of the championship season. But yeah, looking forward to a season. I'm hoping so. Yeah, I'm hoping I am. So I've been Eddie Wright.
I've been Nathaniel Whitlow.
I've been Chris Sorensen.
I've been Paul Wright.
And you've been watching Target Talk on Hold 'Em Back podcast and the Humble Wave Radio. Please join us at the start of the season. We're on every Wednesday from the start, 7 o'clock. Have a great day and don't get too hot.